Hello, my name is Sophie and welcome back to my channel. Today I was going to make a video going through my Amazon wish list because I saw someone doing it before Christmas as a kind of inspiration for other people's Christmas lists, and I thought, oh, that would be fun. And I thought, that's not quite as relevant in January, particularly at the end of January when no one's got any money. Instead, what I'm going to do is take you through all of the series I'm currently in the middle of. I think it's quite popular on BookTube at the moment for people to make reading vlog videos where they try to finish series they're in the middle of. And I, over the kind of December New Year period, made an official list of all the series I own. And obviously that includes the ones I'm in the middle of. So rather than taking you through how many series do I actually own, apparently 68 series I have in my collection in various states of completion. Some I own the whole series, some I just own one or two books. And this is only in this library. It's not in the books that we received as wedding gifts, because I can think of at least 3 series in that. My fringe is not cooperating today. I need to get it cut, but who's got time for that? So anyway, there's a few series in the wedding library, a couple of which are in here because I think just one is in here because I've started it. So obviously I included it as a series that is ongoing or I haven't finished. We have 2 Diary of a Wimpy Kid books, 2 Jack Reacher books by Lee Child, and not The Stand. There's a Stephen King series, the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. They're all in the wedding library downstairs, so they're not on this list. If you'd like a video of all the series I own, let me know. If you'd like to see the Amazon wishlist video, let me know. But for now, here are all the series that I've started and not finished. This list is ordered alphabetically by author's surname and not in any kind of preference. So take from that what you will. So we start with the Dreamland Billionaires series by Lauren Asher. I read the fine print just before Christmas and actually thoroughly enjoyed it. So I'm hoping to get my hands on terms and conditions and the final offer at some point. The Works are now doing a box set of all 3, but I'm reluctant to buy it because I already have book 1. But similarly, it will be the cheapest way for me to get the other 2 books. So if I feel inclined, I may buy them this year. But I'm going to prioritise the series where I already own the sequels, because there's no point me bringing new books into my collection when I have this many unread books. Moving swiftly on, because we have a lot to talk about, the Legends and Latte series by Travis Baldry. There is one other book in this series, though I believe it may have been announced that another one is coming. Not sure how that's going to work. But there's one prequel that's been released, which is called Bookshops and Bone Dust. I liked Legends and Lattes, but I'm not obsessed with it. So I don't own Bookshops and Bone Dust. I would probably read it at some point. If it became available in my library, I'd probably read it that way. But yeah, I think I probably will read it at some point, but I'm not in a rush to. Then we go down to the Cruel Prince series by Holly Black. I read The Cruel Prince in December 2023, thinking, yeah, I'll read The Wicked King and the Queen of Nothing pretty soon, so I don't forget what happened in The Cruel Prince. It's been a year now, so I will definitely have to reread The Cruel Prince before reading The Wicked King and the Queen of Nothing. But to be fair, I would like to finish this series this year. 1, because I own all the books, so it's an easy one to tick off. And 2, because they're all quite short. A lot of fantasy series are so long and incredibly intimidating, but these ones aren't intimidating and they're relatively fun. I think they can either be perceived as a bit pretentious if you take them too seriously, but if you take it for what it is, in that it's teenagers being dramatic, it's actually quite funny. So yeah, I will may or may not reread The Cruel Prince and finish off that trilogy this year. Then next, from Olivia Blake, we have the Atlas series. I haven't read the Atlas Complex, and to be honest, I don't know if I will. I hated the Atlas 6, I hated the Atlas Paradox, but I was sucked in to buy the Atlas Complex because it had a pretty Waterstone special edition, and we all know I'm a sucker for a pretty special edition. Not exclusive to Waterstones, but they do most of them in the UK. So I feel obliged to read it, but I feel like I would have to reread the Atlas 6 and the Atlas Paradox to do it, and unless something drastically changes on a reread, I don't think I'm going to have a nice time doing that. So I may sack that one off. I wish I was the kind of person that liked the Atlas series, but I'm just not in the mindset for pretentious writing that needs to be interpreted. I like writing that tells you exactly what to think and feel. I don't want to have to think too hard when I'm reading books, and I think I have to use my brain to read the Atlas series, and I'm not a fan of that. Next, we have a series that I picked up on a whim in the works. I remember talking about this book when I lived in my old house because they'd put a sticker over the author name. So I was like, maybe this is a Stephen King book, and it wasn't. It's an author called Stephen Cox. And the first book, or I think the series is called Our Child of the Stars, and I need to read the sequel book, Our Child of Two Worlds, which I actually won in a Twitter giveaway from the author. Fun fact. This is a fun kind of contemporary sci-fi story. I would definitely need to reread book 1 to read book 2, but yeah, I think that could be fun. We'll see how that goes. Next, we have from Tracy Deonn, the Legendborn cycle. The next book in that series is coming out in March. It's called Oathbound. Realistically, I should reread Legendborn and Bloodmarked before I read Oathbound, but those are really long books, and I rated them both 3 stars. It's a very 3-star series for me. I really love the idea, but I don't love the execution, but I love the idea enough that I keep reading them. But they are really long, and they take me a long time to get through, so I will read Oathbound. Can't promise I'll like Oathbound, but I have pre-ordered it. Take from that what you will. Then we have a little bit of a jump down to Talia Hibbert with the Brown Sisters. I've read the first book in this series, which was Get a Life, Chloe Brown. Yeah. And that was the first book that I listened to as an audiobook that I realised it was actually the audio narration that was making me think I didn't like the book, but actually I was enjoying the book. So I definitely would read the rest of this series without the audiobooks, because the narrator for Chloe Brown was incredibly irritating. So I'd like to reread Chloe Brown, but I don't actually own Take a Hint, Danny Brown, or Act Your Age, Eve Brown. So again, not a priority series, but I've heard so many people say that Act Your Age, Eve Brown has fantastic autism representation. And if you've watched any of my videos, you know I'm a sucker for autism representation. So I really, really do want to read the series, but like I said, prioritizing the ones I own physically to work on my TBR. But it is a series that I've started and not finished. I'll see, and maybe I will see if they're on BookBeat, because that feels like a free way of reading that series, even though I pay for BookBeat. Not the point. Moving on to Anthony Horowitz and the Alex Rider series. This is a series, it was one of the first things I pulled out of my TBR jar when I'd made my TBR jar back in, 2022? I finished reading all of the series that was out at the time, and then a new book was released called Nightshade Revenge, and even though it's been over a year, I haven't read it yet. I don't think I would need to reread anything, bearing in mind it's like the 14th book in the series. Yeah, I would not be rereading 13 books to read that one, and it's not even that long, and it's middle grade, so I really should just do it and get it out of the way so it's done, but the moment hasn't struck, so I haven't done it. Then we have the one series from the Wedding Library. We have the Killing Eve series by Luke Jennings, and I've read book 1 as it was a gift for the wedding, but we weren't gifted book 2 and 3, and I don't own them yet. So again, not a priority because I don't own them, but I did actually very much enjoy book 1. So I would like to come back to book 2 and book 3. I would definitely need to reread book 1, because I think, especially in these kinds of, I think I'd call it, at least in part, a spy novel, because I think Eve is a spy of some sort, but I feel like there's a lot of details, and I need to make sure I'm brushed up on the details before I read the rest. But maybe I will one day. It's on the list, so hopefully we'll get there eventually. Then to a series that I started ages ago and didn't realise there was more sequels to it, The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle L. Jensen. I read The Bridge Kingdom and The Traitor Queen, I think the sequel's called, and at the time I saw that there was another book called The Inadequate Heir, but I saw that it was about a different character, and I was like, why would I want to read one book about a different character, not being able to comprehend that it was the start of another duology? And now there is the start of a third duology, which I believe the 6th book comes out this year. So I read books 1 and 2, and I've got The Inadequate Heir, The Endless War, and The Twisted Throne to read. I think these were included in my Audible membership, if I remember correctly, but like I say, I don't actually own any of them physically, so not a super duper priority. Then we move down to the Plated Prisoner series by Raven Kennedy. I read Guild and Glint and Gleam. I have Glow as an audiobook on Libro FM. A Goldfinch is available at my library, but so my library has books 1, 2, 3, and 6. Make that make sense. So yeah, I need to carry on with this series at some point. I have the audiobook ready to go. It's just finding the right time. I haven't done it yet. Then we get onto The Delegate Dream Department Store by Mai Lee. I read this as part of mine and my husband's book club last November, and they had buy one get one half price at Waterstones, so we also picked up the sequel, Return to the Delegate Dream Department Store, which I haven't read. I do own physically, so we'll get there at some point. Not really sure what a sequel is going to be about. It was the kind of book that really didn't need a sequel, but here we are. Not particularly enthusiastic about it. We have the Crescent City series by Sarah J. Maas. I read House of Earth and Blood at the end of last year, but then a couple of people told me on TikTok that I should read The Court of Thorns and Roses before I finish Crescent City, and I own all of ACOTAR, but I don't own the rest of Crescent City. So I've got it marked as started because I have started it, but I do want to start and finish another series before I finish it off. But also I don't own this one physically, so it wouldn't be a priority anyway. I'll get there someday, but these books, the Crescent City books, are intimidating. They could all be used in building work, and it wouldn't look out of place. They are bricks, those books. I've started rereading the Maximum Ride series by James Patterson, the first book of which is called The Angel Experiment, and I'm hoping to carry on reading this in February because I absolutely loved rereading that book, and I own the first 6 books in the series. There are now 11, and someone told me that there's potentially a new one coming out this year as well. So I don't know if I'm going to commit to the whole series because obviously I don't own the whole series. I'm going to try and reread all the books I have. We're getting towards the end. We're in the R's now. Lauren Roberts' Powerless series. I've read the first book, Powerless. I still need to read the novella, Powerful, which isn't very short for a novella. I feel like novellas are getting longer and longer these days. I want to be able to read it in one sitting, and that is not what this novella is. Anyway, but I also have book 2, Reckless, and book 3, Fearless, comes out this year, so I've put that on the list as well. It's not top of my list, but I do own at least the novella and the sequel physically, and I will probably pre-order Fearless if I'm being honest. Into the last few, we have The Kingkiller Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss. The first book is The Name of the Wind, which I have read, and I need to read the second book, The Wise Man's Fear. This is an uncompleted trilogy, and it has been incompleted for over a decade, and there's there's whisperings among other people who've read The Kingkiller Chronicles that this trilogy will never be finished. But the author seems to keep writing spin-off books, whether they be novella or novel length, but the motivation to actually read it and finish it when I know that the third book in the trilogy may never come out, it does make me less inclined to actually finish them. Then we have a series called Icons by Margaret Stoll. This is one of those books that I picked up when I was a kid, and I just don't think anyone else has ever heard of it, but I read it and it was really good. It was like a dystopian sci-fi fantasy, which ticked all the boxes of books that were popular in the 2010s. So just kind of made me feel that nice nostalgia in a new way. And I really enjoyed it. And there's a sequel called Idols, which I don't own, but is on my Amazon wishlist, ironically, that I would like to get at some point. I would need to reread Icon. I think what I would do is, if and when I ever get a hold of Idols, I will reread Icons and then read Idols straight away. The last 3, we're nearly at the end. We have the Death Touched of York series by Rosie Talbot, which started with 16 Souls, which I read last year and rated 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. And then there is another book, which I think is perhaps an interconnected standalone, because I think I commented on one of Rosie's TikToks and she replied saying the books can be read as standalones. You don't need to read one to understand the other. But from what I've read, they're all about the same characters. So it's one of those series that you'll probably understand more if you have read them concurrently. So I have read 16 Souls. I own 12 Bones. That would be a really easy one to tick off, because then I don't know if it's a completed duology or if there's going to be more books, but I would have finished what is out. So that would be another easy win. Maybe, should I turn some of these easy wins into a video? Let me know if you want me to do like a reading vlog. I've never really done a reading vlog before because I don't read as fast as a lot of the people who do reading vlogs on BookTube. But if you're interested, let me know. Penultimately, we have the Tomes and Tea series by Rebecca Thorne, which starts with Can't Spell Treason Without Tea, and the sequel is A Pirate's Life for Tea. I've read both of those, and the third book in that series is being traditionally published later this year and is called To You at the Altar. And I believe book 4 is also being published this year. These books have been published quite close together because they were indie published. So Rebecca had all the books ready to go, so they can be trad published quite quickly. But I think book 4 is being trad published from the off. But book 3 is coming out later this year. I have it pre-ordered. I will hopefully read it when the pre-order comes in. I'm trying to make an effort with reading the books I pre-order straight away, so hopefully I'll be able to fulfill that. And that'll be another series. I feel like there's stages with series. There's finishing a series that is finished, and then there's finishing all the books that have been released of a series that isn't finished. So like when I finish Onyx Storm, I will have finished reading all of the books that are out, but I haven't finished the series because the series isn't finished. So it doesn't feel like I can say I've read the whole series, even though I have read the whole series. I'm rambling, but I know you know what I mean. And speaking of Onyx Storm, the last series I am in the middle of on this list is the Empyrean series by Rebecca Yarros. I only have the dust jacket for Onyx Storm here because my husband's reading it physically and I'm reading it on my Kindle. But yeah, currently reading Onyx Storm. So at least there's that. That one will be up to date, hopefully by the end of this week. And that is every series I'm in the middle of. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Really, really chill. A normal amount of books. Yeah, let me know if you'd like a reading vlog where I try and tick a few off that list. However, I am starting a lot of new series this year. Even on my TBR for next month, I think there's 2, if not 3 new series. The TV Art Jar and my Wedding Book Club are doing me dirty in terms of starting new series. But at least I'm starting books that I already own. At least I'm reading books off my physical TBR. I've also reread more books this year so far than I did in the entirety of last year, which is not helpful to the TBR reading. But I do feel like I'm much more restrained this year. Even out of the books I've bought, I've just done a little TikTok on doing like a monthly book haul, and I have acquired 6 new books this month, which is the same as the number of books I've read this month, which I also think is a good start. But even then, of those books, only 3 of them add to my TBR. 2 of them are Onyx Storm, so obviously that only adds 1 to my TBR, and the rest of them are different editions of books I either already own and are already on my TBR, or books I've already read. So it sounds like a really convoluted way to excuse me buying books, but it isn't as bad as it sounds. Let's at least put it that way. Okay, cool. I've rambled for long enough. Those are all the series I'm in the middle of. If you've read any of these series and you think I should prioritise them, please do let me know, because I would love to hear your recommendations, and a positive review is basically all it takes for me to want to read a book. So it would actually be helping me out by incentivizing me to read some of these books. So please do let me know. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a great day. I hope you're reading a great book, and I'll see you next time for another bookish video. Bye!